And joining me live tonight on Trump's very latest, where he has said that India and Russia have basically crossed over to dark China. David K. Johnston is a senior journalist and author. He's been a Trump watcher for many decades. Daniel Silverberg is adjunct fellow at the Center for a New American Security, both joining us from the United States. David, I'd like to come to you first. Even by Trump's own standards, and he has said some pretty explicit, contemptuous things, I think we can agree, in the last few weeks. This latest post by him says, looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together. This is dramatic, even by Trump's standards. What do you make of it, David?
Well, I don't think Donald has any standards. And I say this as someone who spent hundreds of hours with him going back 37 years. Donald is a con artist. It's all a bluff. He is unbelievably ignorant about the world. So the way you just described Pakistan, for example, is beyond his ken. He simply doesn't know anything about the world. I mean, this is a man who did not know what happened at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. How anyone who's a world leader could not know that, even if you're a small country somewhere far from the US, is just astonishing. And so Donald doesn't know what to do. He is flailing about. He is used to people bowing to him either because he could bring economic pressure on them. He had some secret about them. If they were a politician, he paid people who knew that someone had a skeleton in their closet. And that's how he's run his entire life. So the important thing to remember about Donald Trump is he is the world's greatest con artist, and he is the third generation head of a 4-generation white-collar crime family that have for decades stolen from people using contracts, broken promises, extortion, as we're seeing him now all around the world, extort governments and businesses for the benefit of him, his family, and his emerging dictatorship. He isn't fully consolidated power, but the United States is not currently led by a president. It's led by a dictator who's busy consolidating power and making enormous claims like we have the right to go and murder people if we think they are trying to bring drugs to the United States.
Daniel, Trump has sounded unhinged as far as India is concerned. For a while, people have said there's a method to this madness. There's a larger design. This isn't just, instability. He is looking for a deal. He's looking to goad India to signing, an aggressive trade deal. It has crossed that point, I think we can all agree. Do you think this is a breaking point where he says India has crossed over to deepest, darkest China, and we hope that they are very happy together? How are you reading it, Daniel?
I actually don't think it's a breaking point, and thank you for having me here. One light, Donald Trump is very tough to read. He is an unpredictable leader. He could be capricious at times. I know that some analysts romanticize that he's so crazy you don't know what's going to happen next, and that has a power and utility in and of itself. For foreign policy experts and practitioners in the field, it's highly disconcerting after years across multiple administrations of trying to strengthen U.S.-India relations. To have it blown up in this fashion is highly disconcerting. But I don't think it's a point of no return for the following reason. That one, the U.S.-India relationship is not reduced to a mere Trump tweet. It's not merely a matter of how Donald Trump feels on any given day. I guarantee you there are any number of factions within the White House who are not pleased with the turbulence that we're seeing right now, and who are trying to make very clear, this is not 1971. This is not an outright break with India. We have far too many things in common, and frankly, way too many military and business interests against China. Common expectations, common needs to blow up this relationship.
The only divergence I have from that, and I agree with you largely, Daniel, is that this isn't on any given day. It's been, a consistent, escalatory, disrespectful, patronizing, borderline racist, contemptuous, sometimes unthinkable words have been said for a relationship that has been built over 25 years. And that's the reason why even those who subscribe to Trump's brand of aggressive diplomacy are wondering, where this is actually headed. David, the Commerce Secretary of the United States, right before this broadcast, was on a US network saying India has to choose either they're with us or against us, which reminds me of Operation Enduring Freedom, actually, which is a little ominous. Those words ring true here as well. And he also says, and this is something that hasn't gone down well in India, this tone of condescension, where he says, oh, don't worry, India will come to the talks table in 2 months. They can't run this one out. It's this kind of thing that's made it very difficult for things to continue normally.
Well, I think Daniel is exactly correct. This is not the end of any relationship with India. India is the 7th largest trading partner of the United States. India is moving to become a much wealthier country, as it was when India and China 500 years ago were the 2 wealthiest countries on the planet. And Donald's limited understanding of the world is not everything about the United States. And there absolutely are factions within the Trump administration who understand the importance of trade and alliances. Nonetheless, notice that Modi, Xi, and Putin went out of their way to humiliate Trump during the SCO meeting. The ride in the limos, 2 rides in the limos, were specifically intended to humiliate Donald Trump. And so it's important to keep on track with the things you can keep on track, and to recognize that Donald is, he's deeply mentally ill. And I'll just point out for those who don't know, I've written 3 best-selling books and half of a book I wrote 30 years ago about Donald. My track record on predicting his behavior is holding steady at 1,000 in baseball terms. You're a star if you can hit 270. And not once have I been wrong. I've been wrong a lot about Congress and the voters, but I have never been wrong about what I've said about Donald on anything. No one's ever shown any error. And so Donald doesn't know what he's doing. That's the most important thing to understand. Yeah. This is a uneducated, mentally ill, very old man who believes that he is special because of the horrible, horrible upbringing he had. That if you had had that upbringing, you might be as crazy as Donald is. If you had a brutal father who told you the only thing that mattered was winning, which meant getting the money, even if you did it by cheating, which is the principal way he got his money. He even cheated customers at one of his casinos. He had 12-year-old children gambling in his casinos. And secondly, understanding that everything to Donald is about trying to fill this emptiness inside from this just horrible upbringing. A mother who was not loving and nurturing, and a father who was a monster.
Daniel, then the obvious final question is, where is the off-ramp? Given the things that have been said so far, it's going to be increasingly difficult for the Indian leadership, to sell any abrupt peace overtures towards Trump, as the US Commerce Secretary seems to be suggesting. Do you see an off-ramp in the near future?
Well, I won't speculate to Donald Trump's motivations or psychology. I do think that you can draw a pretty clear line between what Trump is doing on foreign policy and I think his pretty uncanny understanding of the U.S. electorate and U.S. politics. Democrats, I think, dramatically underestimated Trump from 2016 on. That is no longer the case. He clearly has extraordinary political skills. I worked on Capitol Hill for 14 years for Democratic leadership. I can tell you we got it wrong initially. No one is getting it wrong right now. When it comes to U.S. domestic politics, when it comes to foreign policy, I think he's still very much a wild card and dancing among different factions, as David mentioned. And so I do think that there is going to be a number of off-ramps here because there's too much at stake. he knows there's too much at stake here. And so he can spout off and write tweets that the foreign policy literati like myself are deeply concerned about. His base isn't going to care, but at a certain point, U.S. businesses with strong interests in India, U.S. military officials who've spent years trying to strengthen our coalition against China, our intelligence officials are going to say, Mr. President, you got to reel this back in. And I feel very confident that right now there are discussions within the White House among those factions who are saying, let's just go after India. Why should India get a free pass in purchasing oil from Russia at the exact time that we're trying to negotiate a Ukraine deal? And others who are saying, Mr. President, you got to pump the brakes here. You got to put this relationship back on track. I think that there's going to be ways to do it through trade, economic partnerships.
We'll have to see where this goes. It only seems to be escalating for the moment. David and Daniel, thanks so much for joining me tonight.